We are officially in the dog days of the NFL offseason, but we're not going to stop here at the channel. So if you are looking for a Broncos YouTube channel that will provide you coverage all summer long, look no further, hit that big red button and subscribe today. What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here with a Broncos trade mailbag. So the way today's show is going to work is we're going to check out some trades that you, the viewers, commented on a community post I put out saying, put out your best trade ideas, and we'll throw a couple of them on screen and break it down. So this is an episode all about the people, you guys. So let's dive into our first trade idea, which comes in from a longtime viewer, All Out Broncos, suggesting the Broncos trade for Eric Kendricks and a 2023 sixth-round pick, and the Vikings receive a 2023 third-round pick from the Broncos. So let's tackle this step by step, but let's look at the finances of trading for Eric Kendricks, because he signed a 5-year contract a couple years ago, which is expiring soon. Next year will be his last year with the deal. But if he were to be traded, the dead cap hit for the Vikings would be just $4 million. Pretty low dead cap hit next year, $1.9. But a nice cap savings of nearly $10 million. So from Minnesota's standpoint, if they're desperate to, clear some money out and maybe get rid of an aging defender, I could see why that would make sense on their side of things. Although, well, we'll explain that more in details in just a second. But from the Broncos standpoint, they only have about $12.5 million of cap space right now. Usually teams want to store $5 to $10 million in the bank when they get, unless you're like the Jags and you suck and you have no one to pay. But I'm saying in this situation, $5 to $10 million, 12 is a good sweet spot in case an injury happens midseason and you need to sign someone. Now, Kendricks' base salary for this year, keep in mind, is about $9.5 million. So the Broncos then would be left with $3-ish million worth of cap space if they were to make this trade. Doesn't seem very likely. Now, Kendricks is a very good player, right? We should get that out right now. 143 tackles last season for the Vikings, 5 sacks, 4 pass breakups. But my issue with this trade from All Out Broncos isn't about trading for Kendricks. It isn't about the finances, really. It's more about Denver trading away a third-round pick for a linebacker when, go back a couple months ago, they had ample opportunities to draft a linebacker in round 3, right? They opted not to go with Chad Muma. They went with Nick Bonito with the final pick of round 2. But then they could have gotten Christian Harris or Nakobe Dean or Channing Tindall or Leo Chenal. All linebackers they could have drafted, but they passed on. So to me, that tells me George Paton isn't very interested in drafting an off-ball linebacker with a third-round pick in the draft. So why trade a third-round pick for a older, aging linebacker? You see what I'm saying here? So that's my kind of a take on that. But what is your favorite trade in Broncos history? I want you guys to get down to the comment section, interact with me down below, because I asked this question about a month ago-ish. Saw some great trades, right? You could go with the Champ Bailey trade. You can go with the John Elway trade. Or you could just go back like 3 months and pick Russell Wilson if you can't think of one. But let me know your favorite trade down below in Broncos history. This next trade idea comes in from Manny. Manny thinks the Broncos should trade... This is going to poke the beehive. Bradley Chubb to the Packers for a third-round pick. Listen, I've talked before about trading Chubb. I was open to the idea before the draft, but now I think the window to trade Chubb is closed. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me to trade him at this point after the draft and before training camp when all you've heard is how great he's looking, and even though it's OTAs and minicamp, it's the best shape of life conversation that season, you know what I mean? So Chubb throughout his career, been a bit of a roller coaster. Awesome rookie season. If we can get that rookie season back, Bradley Chubb is going to have a long career at Mile High. The issue is the injuries have just piled up. And that's out of his control. And that sucks, right? We can all agree injuries suck, especially when you've seen the potential of a player like Chubb in his rookie year where he set the rookie record for sacks in a season at 12. I am skeptical of Bradley Chubb in 2022, though. Entering the last year of his contract, he's got to have one hell of a season to earn a second contract with this team. Because I think the Nick Bonito draft pick was some planning ahead by Paton, going, we might need an edge rusher, so let's get one now who can sit for a year, learn a little bit, and not be just tossed into the fire and start immediately. But I'll let you guys be George Paton. Would you trade Bradley Chubb? Y for yes or N for no? At this point, I would not trade Bradley Chubb. I don't think you're going to get a third-round pick for maybe you get a third-round pick for him, Manny. But to me, I just don't see that trade happening, and I think at this point, you stick with Chubb and you see what you got for this year. This next trade, well, it's a question, really, from Michael Wilson, longtime viewer of the channel. Michael's asking, what do you think we could get for Dalton Risner? We need some draft capital, and he's kind of extra if you ask me. Well, you're right about the draft capital part, right? Just 5 picks next year. But for Dalton Risner, not a 5th-round pick, right? You got a 2nd-round pick who's entering the last year. Yeah, last year. One more year. Yeah, regardless of his contract, who didn't have that great of a year last year, ups and downs, had some injuries here and there and whatnot. Listen, the way I would compare this was Shaq Mason got traded from the Patriots to the Bucs, and he went for a 5th-round pick. Now, Shaq Mason is a better player than Dalton Risner, but he's also older and more expensive. So for the Bucs, they had, for the Patriots, in order to get something for an expensive-ish lineman, you're not going to get a great return on your player. So that's where I would say a 5th-rounder sounds about right in my opinion, but that's my best stab at it. 5th-round pick for Dalton Risner. Next trade idea comes in from John Santasteven. Hope I pronounced that correctly, John. Always see you in the comments section. John thinks the Broncos should trade for Laviska Shenault, while the Jags get Tyree Cleveland. Hopefully they just didn't see the injury the other day. And a 2023 7th-round pick. Happy to report, though, that the injury is not severe or as serious as anticipated. If you missed that, well, there you go. But, yeah, good. Now, moving on, though. Let's talk about Shenault as a receiver. Let's talk about just trading for Laviska Shenault first. So, the former, right, coming a bit of a homecoming, going back to Colorado, right, played in Boulder. But in his career, it's been a bit maybe underwhelming at times because I had high expectations for him coming out of college. And he's shown glimpses of it, but there's just been too many stretches of nothing. 1,200 yards and 30 games played and just 5 touchdowns for Laviska. It's just not going to cut it. I would just keep the current wide receiver room as it is. You got so many studs, right? Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick. You don't know what you have in KJ Hamler, but sky's the limit for the kid. Do you really need to go out and get another wide receiver? I don't think so. Is he better than Tyree Cleveland in a 7th? Yeah, so in that sense, I guess I would accept the trade, but I don't really see the Jags ever accepting that trade, so that's why I'm not really jumping into bed with it, because it probably would never happen. You're not going to trade Laviska for Tyree Cleveland, who's got 12 career targets. So that's my stance on that one. Would be fun, but I think in terms of just trading for Laviska Shenault in general, you don't need to do it. This is our last trade idea of the show. Yeah, 7's trade idea is the Broncos receive linebacker Chris Barnes, while the Packers receive a 4th-round pick in 2023. So, Chris Barnes, a household name, right? We all know Chris Barnes. No, he was an undrafted free agent who, in just 2 years, has made his presence up in the frozen tundra. Started most of last season for Green Bay, and he was a sneaky good contributor on their defense. 81 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and a sack. PFF ranked Chris Barnes the 52nd best linebacker out of 87. Listen, when you're an undrafted free agent, and you make the roster, and you start games, and you are ranked around the middle of the pack, you're doing a lot of things pretty well. So in terms of trading for Chris Barnes, because you need some help at linebacker, I'm open to the idea. Is a 4th-round pick too high for this? Yes. Right, we can go back to what we talked about earlier, which is we have seen Paton is not interested in using draft capital, at least in our small sample size, really, on linebackers, okay? So I don't see it really happening for a 4th, and I don't see the Packers wanting to part ways with what they think they have as a rising star in their linebacker room. All right, let's run through all the trades one last time. You guys comment below what your favorite trade was. Was it the Eric Kendricks trade? Was it the Bradley Chubb trade for a 3rd-round pick? The Laviska Shenault trade for Tyree Cleveland? Or is it the most recent one we just talked about, Chris Barnes for a 4th-round pick? Or maybe you could just put Dalton Risner down below if you just want to trade Dalton Risner for whatever reason. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Greatly appreciate everyone that made us a part of your day. And I'll see you guys later with more Broncos news and rumors.